channel that you guys are working on. This is something good to promote the college, promote brand, and which is indirectly going to help you in terms in the long run. The more the brand, the better you guys are suited in the future.
Yes. So how do you view this online situation that you are facing right now? I mean, for your company as well, how has your business model changed? Has something has
Yeah,
been?
our business model was work from home from very beginning. So in fact, we have been working from work from home from 2018. So for us,
Yeah.
it changed. So it is, yeah, more
Yeah.
detailed. So, and so we realized that the better we move to lean model, the better it would be in terms of running the show, right? So if you see a lot of products nowadays do not generally require very big teams, right? So,
Yeah.
for example, even in our education do require on a bit higher manpower. But if you're just talking about a software product, so Instagram when they raised a $1 billion or they went on to $1 billion evaluation, they were just a number. So
Yeah.
that is how the impact could be created. Unnecessary hiring people is not going to pull you up. It is much more important to figure out what are those 10 early candidates or the early members that are going to join you. That is much more crucial than making a target of having a big office or a 100 people team. That's what I feel.
Yeah.
So that is
So
what.
how do you go about recruiting the right people? I mean, do you have some
That's
standards
a
for
big
that?
challenge. That's a very big challenge that we have. So, for example, we are very adamant that we want someone for a particular role, and we want it to be done that way only. So, the challenge here is that recruitment takes a lot of time in this process, right? So, you do not get the people that you want immediately. So, for example, we are about to launch a new product, and we have been working very rigorously for that for the last 6 months, or rather, I should say 1 year. The what made it, we were supposed to launch it in October. It's February, still we have not been able to launch just because we are not able to find the right replacement for the development guys that left us in between.
Yeah.
So that is an interesting take that we have learned over this is generally in the startup culture, it doesn't work the way the corporate works. So in the corporate, generally people hire from branded colleges like NSIT, DTU, IITs, top NITs. They prefer having candidates from there. Startup definitely cannot afford people from big brands, right? So for example, we're just having a interview maybe I guess 2 days back with the IIT Delhi chap. So in the internship only period for a work from home, now he asked for 1 lakh. So that doesn't make sense at all, right? So, so
True.
he was getting 75 somewhere already working as a part-time. So he was a very fantastic chap, no doubt about it. His credentials were really, really strong in terms of development. But a startup cannot spend that kind of money on newcomers.
Yeah.
So the interesting take here is that a lot of people from tier 2 and tier 3 colleges, a lot of students have really shown a lot of maturity, right? That was something which was not there in 2009 when I graduated, right? Even when I feel I compared myself, so there were very few on the campus which know what actually you have to do in terms of coding when you go to a job, right? All were waiting that we will get acquired and then we'll be trained and then we'll get to know that how it has to be done, right? You can count them on fingers that what was expected of them. But whereas nowadays, because I think which could be or which is already the future of edtech in a way that the degree culture is going to reduce a lot, right? A lot of people have started taking courses outside, MOOCs and boot camps, which have gone really, really famous these days. But they've learned also, and they've since the industry has grown all over, right? The software so much in India, so the exposure chances are also increased, right? So if you really know something and you're willing to work hard, you will easily get an opportunity in startup to work, right? And if you work really hard, then that process is going to help you build up your profile like anything. Because see, I always believe that wherever you go, right? So this is something which we learn from our IMA negotiation class, that any type of negotiation will be a perfect successful one and it's a win-win. It cannot be that I am the recruiter, it has to be the win for me only. The other person loses the entire bet, right? It has to be win-win. So for a startup to have a win-win, the person should also be eager to work for you but at the same time not thinking that I'm not being paid much.
Hmm.
That is the thing. Then all the time he'll be looking for B option, C option, D option, and that means he will not be giving his full time to the A option.
Yeah.
Which not just works bad for the company, but I guess works bad for the student as well, right? Because the learning that he could derive by working hard on a single project, he cannot do that for multiple projects, because as you understand that when you join a big company like Amazon or Microsoft, you're a very tiny part of the whole organization, not even like a hand, right? And after you work there for 2 3 years, you realize that I'm getting bored because I'm not adding any value to the company, right? The same happens here also, that if you dribble too much into a lot of jobs here, you don't get any value derivation from it. Because the next level, when you try to get a more salary, people will get you that you do not know anything what we should pay you for. So a lot of things have changed in that. Then dynamics also, bootcamp culture has changed a lot, and it has produced really good talent coming from tier 2, tier 3. And I guess the from home culture was also, COVID has helped in this regard also. People sitting at home have tried to really train themselves very well. Earlier they were more of the offline shift, right? And so, for example, around your campus there is coding blocks and coding ninjas, right? So whole campus moves there, right? Now they also have made online their main forte. They have split at 70:30 ratio, right? So just imagine that, provided that you were having the option, you still went for offline. You still knew that they could offer online. But just imagine somebody sitting from Bihar or eastern part of UP who does not have these kind of things. But once he gets to know that there is something online available, he will shoot for it, right?
Yeah.
Information spread has actually helped and has positives as well as negatives as well. More on the positive side. So COVID has the edtech like big thing in all these. So our edtech is typically split in various tranches. So for example, we call class 1 to class 5 below K5. Then there is a segment of K5 to K8. Then K9 and K10 work very differently. Then 11, 12 obviously works very differently, and the college stream works very differently. So no set of rules work for any of these compartments, right? And you have to find what can work for what particular segment. That's what you have to figure it out. And all of them has been helped with the due to the COVID. All of these segments have been helped. So the transition, that just imagine that your parents having a Zoom call with you. Can you imagine that 2 years back? But उनके phone पे भी Zoom नहीं होगा, right? Now we have Zoom call. If I'm sitting in Bangalore, I can have a Zoom conversation with my parents that was sitting in Delhi, right? So that transition has helped immensely in tech growth, and it will have a long-term growth. So as per our statement where we guys work in 11th and 12th, specifically the IIT JEE and the test prep segment, though this year we've been very cautious. So for example, a lot of economists have said that there is a V curve going on, that economy went to the curve now, it will come back. And in India it's showing a V curve, right, which is a very positive sign. So we believe that in the edtech space, so the offline, which was hampered a big way for higher education, they will again come back very strongly in once the COVID gets out, which has already started to show in this year. And the online will sit back for the growth that we had in 2020. Definitely we cannot have it for the next 2 3 years again. We will never have that kind of honestly speaking, that's what I feel. But yes, the ratio where we were struggling to get the entire country 10% on online for education, 90% was offline, that has immediately in a single year has shifted to 30 to 70 or maybe even more ratio. That has been a very drastic change. That how
even in the past years, I think YouTube and like just information all over the internet has increased a lot. Like you have influencers like Aman Rattarwar, who was a graduate from a college as well, and he just when he advises students to like do this, I think people listen more, and then they start the tier 2 to tier 3 college students have started like learn a lot.
Again, this is something which has to be taken with a pinch of salt. That education generally cannot work the influencer way, right? If we keep influencing people in the education as well, so it will sort of become like a religion. या एक बाबा के पास सारे लोग चलेगा पर बाबा को भी नहीं पता क्या बोल रहा है पर चल रहा है सब कुछ, right? But in a way, in the initial phases, it's good because people are getting more knowledge from a single source. And yes, for example, Aman does a good job in delivering the right thing in the right apt amount, doing a lot of good stuff. There are a lot of people who are just because they want to be YouTubers, they are just floating in around in the tech sphere. So that is something which has hampered also our business as well, to be very honest. Because yes, this hampers business, but over a period of 2-3 years trajectory, everything will fall flat. People will derive. So, for example, if I ask a very simple question that, okay, you have been influenced during the time you were studying, but once you get the result, you know that somebody has messed up with you, right?
Yeah.
It generally happens with our coaching institutes, right? That FitG or BMCs of the world, we were very happy when we went there, but once we got a very low percentile, we then learn the whole cycle. So that process in the education is a problem. For example, if we talk about e-commerce, this loop is actually one day. You immediately get to know what is not working, and you can just go back and improve it, and the next day you will have a better experience. For education, that takes a longer time, very long time. That's the problem. So talking about the future of the space, if we have to come back to the topic. So I think personalization would be the key, right? So right now we are disrupted by the free model, right, where everything is being provided on YouTube.
Yeah.
But it has, I guess, that has quickly. So pricing as a disruption has never worked very well in any of the industries. If you see across platform, pricing works for a very initial period of time where the big shots definitely get a big bump. But over a period of time, terms of personalization of the content and then making the learning experience even better and better. So, for example, software as a service, which was not very predominant in tech, right, boomed up very well in tech, right? A lot of providing educational apps, LMS to schools, colleges, teachers, individual level. So they've grown up very, very quickly. So, for example, I don't know whether you have heard of Class Clips from NSIT, again, a startup, has done tremendously well in this regard, that they have started providing the LMS services, paid classes in your app. So these kind of platforms build up. But the premium model or the free model, I think, will change to more of personalization using, and that is where the technology can come in. That is where AI, ML, though these are very big terms, and we need have enough data, and we'll never have enough data to actually put it in education sector, honestly speaking, right? AI, ML, very, very big data, right? So student code is much big data as a term as well. Yeah, it's overhyped, right? AI and ML is overhyped, nothing else. तो अगर आप 5 क्वेश्चन की क्विज से एक स्टूडेंट को जज कर सकते हो तो मतलब that's not AI, right? So that's the issue. But yes, a lot of things will change in terms of people will get to understand that how online works, right? So a lot of that is where the influencers will also teach a lot of educators that what is the amount which has to be taught in what particular time, right? That is something a very good learning that we educators have derived coming from YouTubes of the world. That is also something which we can learn. But yeah, as I said earlier, the segment wise if we see 1 to 8, 8 to 12, every sector has a different need. Every sector has a different target to fish, and again, by my understanding, every sector being overcrowded, every time if somebody is looking to get into this field, there's a lot of every market, there's a lot of scope. So, for example, a lot of times people do ask that we have reached out to investors or not. So we have not any need of investor funding at this point in time. We are going really well. The bootstrap had worked very well for us at this point in time. But the more important question is that even if you get money, what you will do with that money, right? So immediately you will think of expansion, building products, getting a big team, offices, and maybe vertically or horizontally expanding into some other domain. So, for example, we have been thinking of our immediate segment that we would target. But for the last 2 years, we have not been able to think of what disruption we can do in that market. Right? Just we have the investors' money, and we just also become one of the other players in the market, just delivering free lectures, free demos, delivering the same sort of thing which is happening, we generally don't buy that idea. So we have prepared ourselves from getting into 9, 10, and or any vertical. For example, we thought of getting into college space as well, where teaching basics of whatever. So even for first years, like Android development or whatever they want. But again, that was like boomed up like anything in 2 years span of time, right? We were thinking of it, and it was like it was everywhere, right? So, but we still have not found where the differentiator lies, right? And that's what is very important to understand. That if you are in a very niche and a very over competitive market, you have to figure out what is the differentiator. For example, at MathonGo, we have been able to figure out our differentiator, and we love to stick to it. So, being the name I suggest, MathonGo, we just are into math, right? A lot of people and students, in fact, who are being a part of our courses, tell us that why not physics and chemistry? They're ready to pay you, right? But whatever your forte is, we just love to stick to it that only, right? So we are able, in terms of revenue, we have to talk about, we are able to generate the same kind of revenue which we expect by selling 3 subjects. We are deriving it from 1 subject. So that helps us, and that's what we initially started. That if you have hands spread out in multiple things, B, A, B, C, then all of them will not have the same level of quality. It's better to get A. Understand. So a lot of edtech companies, which I think are doing really well, is understanding what is the requirement, right? So for example, you must have studied in a coaching institute, let's say Fijis of the world or Akash of the world, right? Being an educated online player, how we can supplement you so that we do not disrupt you from your existing place, right? Now everybody is just stuffing 2 things. So for example, you are getting in the entire year course. Online also you are getting the entire year course. At the end of the day, the might be both delivering very good content, but at the end of the day, you have only 24 hours. You'll be able to utilize both of them, right? So what is the need? I think that is where the technology will be built up. That understanding per se that where a student gets stuck, and then only bring a help rather than just dishing out everything. ये खरीद लो हमने cost कम कर दिया, ये खरीद लो हमने cost कम कर दिया. This structure I don't think is going to survive a lot of, it has already been killed. It's because everything is.
What do you think about this new education policy that's coming out?
Yeah, the policies are there. A lot of times we see that on paper they look very good, but there is no point discussing them unless until they are implemented very well. Right. Yeah. So good step. I would say it's a good step, good thought process, because for a change, anybody came up and thought about education, improvement in education. Otherwise, we were living the way we have been living for the last 50 years, right? Change, I think the last change happened 35 years back, right? So something has changed, but there are a lot of things which we don't want to get into the detail, but I think the execution is the key, and it's going to take a long time right now. It's not that it sounds, because having been into B2B space also, where I have worked in B2B as my own company. So for example, selling anything to a school or a college is like the shittiest job, right? So B2C, selling to a customer directly, you can actually sell it, you can understand it, but every time you go to a school, वो गेट से बाहर निकाल देंगे, आपका proposal रख लेंगे, बताएंगे कुछ नहीं. The same thing happens with a lot of NEP or government level proposals where they just talk about things, but the execution is still missing. So let's see what happens. But it's a step in a good direction. That's something which we can say.
So don't you think like we're increasing the policy of coding and all, and doesn't like India have a lot of engineers already? So should we concentrate on something that sets us apart? Like at least get more peers in there. We're already high on engineering. Yeah, applicants already.
True, very true and a valid one. That see, that's there's a question which, if you from economics point of view understand, there is always, all the industries work on demand and supply, right? And in India, you always have a demand of software, right? Be it outsourced or be it right now in India development, right? So, but having said that, though the demand is very high, a lot of engineers are already graduating. So now why teach kids the coding? That is something which is a different question altogether, where kids from class 5th, 6th are being pushed to do coding. So I feel that is something which is quite a bit challenging. I have to understand that why a kid has to do a coding.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why not develop like I think we have a lot of demand for better athletes as well, but no one pushes them in that direction. I just
No, absolutely. So absolutely, but the point is, let's be practical. So, for example, I asked a simple question that you are into DTU, right? And you went to DTU because you wanted to have a good placement, right? And I'm damn sure you never wanted to become an engineer. You must have some different passion, but you still went to.
Yeah, that's true.
So, and more predominantly, the coding decisions for kids is generally not taken by students, right? So, for example, you have taken your own decision. 50-50 at least, right? But for a kid who is in fifth and sixth, the entire decision comes from the parent.
Yes. Yeah.
The parent, it is always the safe bet, not the creative bet that every parent has it for a kid. So that is a position where neither the government, neither the company is to be doubted, whereas the parents have to be made aware of that this is not the only skill set that will make their child become the next Sundar Pichai is promoted, but there are very different other things which can help the kid grow up.
Yeah.
Uh,
So true.
Sixth skill set, I guess. So even if you talk about why we maybe if I talk about on an individual level, I think math is something which still needs a lot of innovativeness at the ground level also, right? Even if you talk about so for example, the biggest change I see when I moved to Bangalore 3 years back. So even in India only, the kind of mathematic problem we will solve at 8, 9 varies from what we are being solved at down in south, right? And having said that, math still forms the basic of AI, ML, NLP, whatever you do, all the logics. But pushing kids, so this is something which is very interesting. But I think parents have to be educated more in terms of. I think a lot of changes will happen. So, for example, when I used to be in school, there was no IPL, right? So I have played for Delhi. So our target was that Delhi खेलेंगे, रणजी खेलेंगे और फिर इंडिया खेलेंगे. और फिर वो साला बीच में आपकी आईआईटी आ जाती है, तो सारे खत्म हो जाते हैं वहाँ पर. So अब क्या हुआ है that since IPL has become so popular, so just imagine there could be a thing where people will not even imagine getting selected for a national team, IPL ki team, because that is going to pay you more. The ROI is better there, right? So that has helped promote cricket overall, right? So the more these kind of activities in terms of different sectors happen, more quickly we will evolve. So evolving is a big thing. So it will happen. I don't know what, when, but yes, it will happen. It will happen. So for example, tennis, for example. So in Bangalore, tennis and all these things are quite happening, right? Where in Delhi, you don't see anybody playing tennis.
That actually not like, because I'm a state level tennis player, so I'm from Delhi, yeah. So I think I've seen a lot of players there, but yeah, as far as other countries are concerned, then yeah, we're nowhere near the.
So that is something where someone sparks something big, shot something. So that's how it happened.
How exactly did this idea of MathonGo strike you?
So I've been into this education space from 2008, right? So this is the only thing that I know, honestly speaking, apart from being cricket fan. So we started shooting videos when I was in my third year. We already had a company in the third year with one of my IIT Roorkee friends. So I used to go to IIT Roorkee on Saturdays and Sundays, catching the train and develop the team there, everything. So this is something which we have done and I wanted to do from a very long time. And that's what I've been doing. So I have been part of very high edtech products in terms of, classroom interaction over iPads, building products which could be sold in Australia, European markets, and to a very basic thing like running an offline center in different parts of the country. And then I took a break in 2016 for almost like a year or so. I was just thinking what I should do. I wanted to quit tech, honestly speaking. I thought I had enough. So let's try something else. I am not justifying my computer science from an NSIT or an I am tag. So let's do something cool there. But it was something that again struck that education is still something which there is a lot of creativity to be done. And in 2017, we actually started with the free trend. So we were the first YouTube channel which provided actually entire content of math in a very structured way for 45 days, completely free. So that is, and it again, so it, as you say that it becomes, once you become, if you start getting demand, you will see the supply there, and that's how it went on and on and on. So there is no looking back till that day. That's how it is. But we still have very good ambition and good thoughts inside that how we can improve students, uh, and that's the reason also that I keep on trying to be a student every year. So for example, I try to be a part of even a Stanford or a Harvard course, that's every 18 months, so that to understand that how it feels from the side, right? So that's very important, right? That you have to be there. And interesting one is that my co-founder is someone who is a college dropout, right? And that also helps way higher than you can think of. That I cannot interact with you guys being in having an age difference of almost 18 or 17 years as I would have done 10 years back, right? Because my lingo would have matched. Right now, I would be like a mid-aged guy who is like to be seen somewhere, but not a friendly guy to be, right? So that is something where I see it as a business opportunity, right? I try to see that this is something which is very important element, right? Whether that you are able to connect with your, we should not say customer, but yeah, in a business point of view, that you should be able to connect with the customer, right? And that is where the influencer model, for example, you mentioned Aman or other guys, that's where the impact has been created, that they've been able to connect with the audience well. So that is what our key learning has been. And I think just this particular factor, if you just put very well in the education, that again, that could be a distinction. That is what we guys are actually trying to put up in the new product. Say, I just keep telling as a teacher that discipline is something which takes a normal guy from a very sharp IQ person way ahead, right? So discipline is something which is very important, right? And that's where the other thing comes in, that you have to be always optimistic, right? So a lot of times we feel that we are not able to do something, whatever, and the pressure of the society, friends, we bog us down. So it is somewhere we have to believe in ourselves and be very disciplined about what's the target for you. For example, I can just give you my how bad I am. I'm not just joking. How bad I was, like so in pre-boards I failed in 4 out of 5 subjects. So I was being passed only in physical education. So, so that bad I was. So if I've come up that long journey, so I think anybody can do it, if provided that. So I think the fire has to be there, right? So there is may not be in the education, getting degree or something, but there has to be a spark right inside you. If you just keep following that spark, that is where it will lead you.
And sir, according to various reports, I think it's believed that most of the engineering undergrads are unemployable by all major companies. So do you think online education could do something to help that?
No, see, I think yes, and this is something which we have also been discussing in our startup leadership groups, that the problem is not with either the student or the college. The problem is a lot between the miscommunication and the gap, which is the from both sides. So student expects something else, the company expects something else from the student, because of which there is a gap, right? So as we were discussing very casually earlier on, that I cannot employ a person to, let's say, X packet if he doesn't know anything, right? So for example, if we talk about the college, I don't know about DTU as per se, but in the curriculum, if we have a 8085 processor being taught in a computer science class at this point in time, 2020 or 21, then it does not make any sense, right? So that is where adaptability has to come from the college side as well. Plus, a lot of students on their own behalf has to take up the challenge, which they have, honestly speaking, with the help of outside courses, and that is where the edtech has grown up like anything. That they have started to do actually those work where they are directly employable. right? Just having a blue collar does not mean that you will directly be placed, right? You have to understand that the work has to be done. So that is where I feel a lot of change has already started to happen. In fact, and that is where I guess India has evolved and have really, really good examples from US. So I don't know whether you guys know about that. There is a company in US from Stanford grads where they just pick directly students from high school, that is after 12, no degrees, but just boot camp for 18 months. And they make sure that they teach so much and so that that chap has the ability to be placed in Google or Microsoft even after 18 months. So why waste 4 years of India when you can in 18 months, right? So that I think will be a bigger trend, and engineering already has seen a drop, right? So since we are breadwinners, we can say that earlier the pool was 12 lakh, 13 lakh, it has reduced to 10 lakh, and I feel it's going to go down only unless until something drastically improves in this particular regard. But I guess more of outside learning, outside class learning measures is going to come up. So for example, even if I as a teacher has to guide someone who has not scored a good rank, I would say यार BSc कर ले और side by side अपने आप को improve करो, better है, एक साल बचा. Yeah, I think it is much better than investing anything in 4 years.
How important do you think education actually is for a person?
So that depends on how you define education. So for a lot of us, including me also, honestly speaking, we define education with the college brand degrees that we get. But that's not the essence of education, right? The essence of education is to make sure that the individual is learned, matured, and be confident at all the points, right? That's the whole soul aim of education. If you go about Gitas of the world, right? But we have made it intact that कि भैया सोसाइटी में वैल्यू चाहिए तो IIT जाओ या DTU जाओ या NSIT जाओ, but that is not education, right? And that has also changed. If you see a lot of good stuff in terms of startups that has come up, you will see they are not even graduated, they are dropouts, or even people who have not been from very tier 1 or tier 2 premier colleges. That structure has already changed. So it is just that people start realizing it, that good sensible education is what we require, not the degree education that is we are being stuck on. That's the thing.
Yeah.
That is what my take on is on all of this. So we'll be watching this or are watching at this point in time that sometimes a lot of in some of the other meetings I was hearing this, that corporate people think that they are being troubled by the company, their life is miserable, they have no family time, and the startups are really flashy. Come to an entrepreneurial life and you will get to know that there is no holiday, right? There is no fun, right? And that is where, if anybody who wants to be an entrepreneur, if he is looking for fun, that entrepreneurship is not for you, right? And if you see that no यार चलो एक दिन की तो छुट्टी ले लेता हूँ, 2 दिन नहीं लेते, एक दिन की ले लेते हैं, then please do not start up. Do not start, because if you are not enjoying what you are doing, then at any point in time you will never succeed, right? So for example, I have not taken any break for the last I don't know how many years, apart from when I just go out completely out for a vacation. So I don't follow a routine where I have to take a Saturday break or a Sunday break. Even if I have to take a Monday break, I generally take Monday break because I avoid the crowd, take my kid out for 2 3 hours, and I come back and I am again on my desk. That's how it is, because I enjoy doing that. It's not compulsion for me to take a break, right? So that is where a lot of people should think that if they are too much focused on anything, right? And there is a very good example right now in this decade to take Elon Musk and all those things, right? So I don't know whether if you have seen that there is a trend going on Elon Musk, that how you operate four multi big companies. And the tweet was that I'm an alien by Elon Musk, right? So yeah, so that is something which a student has to understand, that just not be restricted to what all options you have. Just go all in without thinking of the failure part, right? Whether I will fail. Just go all in. Whatever you have, go all in. Never think about. So a lot of people would think यार अभी internship करना है तो चलो पहले ये बताओ पैसा कितना मिलेगा, right? That's the biggest drawback I feel. I have seen in this community at this point in time. Your target should be to learn more and more. So, for example, have you heard of aspiring minds? You guys? AMCAT.
No,
AMCAT.
sir.
Okay, you will get to know.
cat, yeah, I've heard of it. Cat before that.
So that basically which conducts interview questions on behalf of various multiple organizations, right? So that's where a third ask a senior, he will get to know. Definitely, a lot of people used to do that. And again, it's a NSIT graduate who has started that. So I was his first intern, right? And we did something very basic like developing macros in Excel sheet for Excel, right? Now it has been done and Google already provides scripts, right? But we used to develop in VP. And we remember we were not being paid, right? And we were never going there for getting paid, right? For us, it was something which was a kick that we can do something on our own, which can have a bigger impact. And with the help of that, we started building, me and my friend from NSIT, we developed software. So, for example, BitSat. BitSat at that point in time, 2005, there was nobody who was providing softwares for BitSat examination. We used to sell that sitting at NSIT parking lot. We have developed, we burned DVDs and we used to sell after 5 p.m. Right? So that is how you build up confidence that you can do things, but for that you have to take risk, right? So be risky, be bold. That's what I have to say from my side.
So sir, have always been in like that kind of space, like you were selling DVDs about BitSat, then you have a course on MathonGo. So I've always been into edtech only.
I have always been. So for example, I have been a passer of VMC classes, right?
Yeah.
Delhi. So अभी तो उतना नहीं है. Starting में जब जो भी हमारे टाइम के बैच वाले तो we were like taught by the three भैयास, right? So एक वो imbibe होता था कि यार ऐसा ही टीचर बन जाते हैं. ठीक है, कमाई तो वो लोग करते ही थे, हमें दिखता था. ठीक है, और टीचर भी ऐसे थे कि it used to have a very high influence on you, right? So from that time itself we had the influence कि यार कुछ ऐसा ही करते हैं. That is where my journey always. So being from my mother, my masis, my nanas, dada, all have been professors. So my one arm is like all blood going through professor's side. My father completely business, all together in and out. So mix of both.
Idea mix.
Yeah, that's how it is. Like, yeah. Can guys connect to me at anup@mathongo.com for any advice if you feel that you might look forward to in terms of what you should do in the third, fourth years. We love to do that. That's what my motto is. So I strongly feel that in the college days, I wanted to be like Bill Gates or Steve Jobs of the world. I have missed my mark. So I think, can I teach someone or help someone to become the next Bill Gates from India? That's what my mission as a teacher is. That's what I end up with.
That's great.
Great, sir. A very good goal to have. And sir, thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you, and I really hope we can do this again sometime.
Anytime for you guys. Anytime.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thanks a lot, sir.
Yeah, same here.